Harper One and HarperAudio present Song So Wild and Blue, A Life with the Music of Joni Mitchell by Paul Lisicky. This is the author. This book is for Jude. Author's note. When I first conceived of this project, a friend said, "Will you interview Joni? Can I come along?" Immediately, I knew it wasn't going to be that kind of book. I wanted the emphasis to be on Joni's songs, which have an independent life, and their influence on my creative work. It turned out it was impossible to think about the songs without at least gesturing toward their maker, and to how and why she would have written them. Sometimes, as I was writing, the line between Joni and me felt so thin that it nearly dissolved. Whose mind was whose? Occasionally, the book envisions Joni's perspective based on what I know of her life from her interviews, biographies, website, and songs. Those passages are tethered to facts. This book is an act of imagination. A few names have been changed along the way to protect the privacy of individuals. Gathering. Down to you. The smell of struck nickel came up from the strings. It was already past 4 a.m. She leaned into the shape of her new guitar, strumming a song she'd been working on. And while it was better to be playing an actual guitar versus her baritone ukulele, something was off, something about her knuckles. She couldn't make a firm D major chord. Her left hand hadn't moved the way she'd wanted it to, not since she had polio at 9, when she had to lie perfectly still in bed for weeks to limit the spread of the virus. She contorted her hand on the fingerboard. Every other guitarist she knew in her circles could play D major. Why not her? She looked out the window of her Detroit apartment and imagined the voice of her mother, who liked to call her a quitter. The trick was to say no to the face that had mixed up love with control. Where was that face when she reached for the tuning peg and twisted it beyond the expected rotation? Joni says she learned to retune from Eric Anderson, but he'd only suggested open G and D modals, tunings already common among folk and blues musicians. Joni didn't stop there. She didn't stop when the higher strings snapped and flailed, or when someone said, "That's no way to play a guitar, you're killing the neck." By retuning the instrument to the pitches that felt right, she could play the left-hand shapes that suited her fingers. She opened up the orchestral breadth of the guitar, deepening its bottom range, rewriting the rules of Western musical tradition. But who starts in the clouds? Like any artist, her task was to find a sound that captured how she talked, how the currents of her brain moved, how she held the wine glass in her hand as she walked from one side of the party to the other. Retuning her guitar? Audacious, as likening herself to Van Gogh, Picasso, Beethoven, and Shakespeare. Audacious as hiring the musicians and firing them when necessary. How many men would she have to convince? She was on her own in a world of men, straight men, who must have crossed their arms over their chests, leaned back in their chairs, and looked at her with mildly amused contempt. August night, runway lights, plane landing, rubber on hot asphalt. Play that. By the time of Court and Spark, her 6th album, she'd grown tired of playing solo, and so many of the techniques she'd invented on her own were being questioned, challenged, dismissed by school musicians. One night, when
Sample complete. Ready to continue?